Okay, Wildcats, here we're at 3, making waves, transformations of radical functions. Warm up. 1. Describe the similarities and the differences between the graphs of f of x and g of x. 1. Both functions are translations of h of x. The function f of x equals h, parentheses x minus 5, is the function h of x shifted 5 units to the right. The function g of x equals h of x plus 5 is the function h of x shifted 5 units up. Let's take a look at the next page. Getting started. Let's see change. A group of art students had the idea of using transformations of radical functions to create a logo for the Radical Surfing School. To start, they graphed the function f of x equals square root of x for 0 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 14 and shifted copies of the curve to create waves g of x, h of x, and k of x. And take a step back, and we're going to go ahead and remove the restrictions. Okay, 1. What values in the transformation function form were changed to create these functions? Explain your reasoning. The c value translates each function c units to the right to create each new function. 2. Do the graphs of g of x, h of x, and k of x have the same domain as f of x? Explain your reasoning. No, each time the function shifts c units to the right, the lower end of the domain increases by c units. All right, let's take a look at the next page. Excuse me. 3.1 Transformations of radical functions. Consider the transformations of radical functions f of x equals square root of x graphed by the art students in the previous activity. Devin, student, Christian each wrote an equation for one of the functions that were added to the graph, first in terms of f of x and then in terms of f of x. Devin's equation g of x equals f parentheses f of x minus 4 equals square root of x minus 4, where the domain is 4 to infinity and range is 0 to infinity. Stuart's equation h of x equals f parentheses x minus 8 equals square root of x minus 8, where domain is 8 to infinity and range is 0 to infinity. Kristen's equation is k of x equals f parentheses x minus 12 equals of x minus 12. The domain is 12 to infinity and the range is 0 to infinity. And keeping with the corresponding colors, this was the orange line, this was the blue line, and this was the purple one. All right. The students decide that reflecting each curve, g of x, h of x, and k of x across the y-axis to make them more like waves crashing on the beach. Consider the graphs of these reflections. Graph the resulting functions f prime of x, g prime of x, h prime of x, and k prime of x. Write each function first in terms of its transformation of f of x, g of x, h of x, k of x, and then in terms of x. Finally state the domain of each. Okay, so f prime of x equals f parentheses negative x, which is the square root of negative x, where the domain is negative infinity to 0, and the range is 0 to infinity. G prime of x equals g of negative x equals the square root of negative x plus 4, where the domain is negative infinity to 4, range is 0 to infinity. And then h prime of x equals h of negative x, which is the square root of negative x plus 8. And k prime of x equals k of negative x equals the square root of negative x plus 12. And then h prime of x domain is negative infinity to 8, and range is 0 to infinity. And k prime of x, the domain is negative infinity to 12, and the range is 0 to infinity. Excuse me. Let's take a look at the next page. B. Describe how you can use the transformation function form to determine the equations of the new functions. I can multiply the x by -1 in the functions. This will reflect the functions across the y-axis. See, how did the domain of each transformation function change as a result of the reflected across the y-axis? The domain of each transform function became the opposite of what it was before. Go ahead and mark out D. Suppose the students wanted to reflect the three new waves g of x, h of x, and k of x across the x-axis. Consider the equations for the reflected functions. Describe how you can use transformation function form to determine the equation of the reflected functions. I can multiply the function by -1. This will reflect the function across the x-axis. Okay, so g prime of x equals negative g of x equals negative square root of x minus 4, where the domain is 0 to infinity, range is negative infinity to 0. H prime of x equals negative h of x equals negative square root of x minus 8, where domain is 0 to infinity, range is negative infinity to 0. And k prime of x equals negative k to a of x equals negative square root of x minus 12, where the domain is 0 to infinity and the range is negative infinity to 0. Alright, let's take a look at the next page. Go ahead and mark out this 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 page. And the student works 1A, 1B, 1C, and 4. All right, go ahead and finish your notes. Start working on your assignment and have a wonderful Wildcat day.